Okay, it's 6 p.m. It's June 27th, 2024. Calling the meeting to order. We'll do a roll call.
Stephanie Ahmad.
Here.
Paul Cagorno.
Here.
Rich Carnation.
Here.
Bill Adams.
Here.
So I'm running the meeting today, and I am also doing the flag salute, so join me.
Yeah, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 2.3, report out of closed session. Do we have anything to report?
We do not. We have an item later on that addresses something that was in closed session, but nothing to report at this time.
Okay, great. Moving to 3.1, adjustments to the agenda. We do have some adjustments, and I'm going to go through them. And if I misstate anything, hopefully Jeremy or my fellow board members will correct me. So we are going to first add an item, and that item will be, it's going to become the new 5.5. And that is an item that is being continued from the last meeting. It is a resolution on the bond, which was intended to be on the agenda, somehow didn't get on it, and it was continued then, and we are adding it formally now. I believe we need to vote. Do we need to take action?
You do need to take
authorize
action.
that? So
Two-thirds of the board has to approve adding it.
So are you inserting it at 5.5 and then everything else moves
We are
down?
inserting it at 5.5 and everything else will move down.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to add that item, and then I have something else, but we'll do one at a time. So I'll make a motion for that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So it was 4? Okay, then it can be added.
Okay. Great. So that is simply the same item as what was on our
The
last.
same item as last time. The only difference is but last time there was a range that we were looking at for a bond. And last meeting you gave me direction on what the ultimate amount should be. And so that actual amount is in there at 122.5 million.
Okay. And as far as like technically where it's going to be, will it actually be added to this agenda ultimately? So we
It will be
can
added for
then
the
go-
minutes, yes.
Okay.
It'll act as
perfect.
if it's been.
In the minutes, okay. Excellent, thank you. The second item is we are adding an approval to the new 5.7, formerly 5.6. This was, I think, carried in this item without the link. Even though it is the type action discussion, it's missing a statement, which is
Consideration of approval.
consideration of approval. So we are adding that statement. We can vote on that as a board in a moment. And in addition,
Just to be safe, we're going to bring it back in August as well.
yes, because, yeah. So we're going to add that, edit it, the item, vote on it now, and then also vote on it again. Sorry, vote on adding it, put it on the agenda, and then also bring it back later, just to be sure. Yes.
And just for clarification, I would suggest when it comes back in August, which would be our next regular meeting, it would be, just for double checking, we will ratify the action we took today. So, and that way, in case there's, I don't think there would be, but any questions or uncertainty about clarifying that phrase, then a ratification simply says, yeah, we're confirming what we did.
Okay. So do I have a motion to add the approval language to item 5.7?
Can I add one thing? I'm sorry. The reason it's important to do this now is because there's a time frame, right? We don't want to give more time for an ENA. It's not to the district's benefit, right? So if we start this ENA in 2 months from now, then it extends how long we're in this exclusive negotiating agreement. That's why we want to do this today, but then also ratify again in August, so it's just more clear.
Great. And then we'll ratify it then retro to today as well. Okay, perfect.
I'll move that we make the change as you described.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. And do we have any recusals?
I'm recusing or abstaining, or whatever the right
Okay.
word is.
Sounds good.
Well, Rich, hold on. Let me ask this. So right now we're just voting to add this, correct? We're not voting on the item. So if you don't vote to add it, then we can't do that because it's got to be 2/3 vote in order to add the item.
To amend the
Or
agenda.
To amend the agenda. Well, on this one, I think we should be clean. So let's act as if we're adding it.
Okay.
For the actual vote on the ENA, then I think that's when you would recuse yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
If
fine.
that's
then.
okay.
Let's do that one more time. And I think you're recusing yourself from the item. I
the
think
item.
this is appropriate to do. Okay, so we have a motion from Bill. We have a second from Paul.
Yeah.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay, moving to item 3.2, public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have any public comment? Okay, any person may address the board on any consent item or item not listed on the agenda. You know the drill, so I won't read the whole spiel. Go ahead.
I'm going to try to keep this short. Y'all have been looking at me when the math discussions have come up, and I've remained kind of quiet and like I'm not going to touch that one. And I've had a few thoughts that I want to share with you. I'm a little bit disappointed that Trustee Lopez is not here as well. I've been listening to the conversations, and I have a pretty good idea where different people on the board kind of stand on where things are going and how things have been going in math. And I've been listening to Trustee Kogorno, point out that for many years, he's had the opportunity to volunteer and tutor in math. And I'm going to step out for a second for talking about math to brag about my son, who is a rising junior who'll be attending Windsor High School. He's been attending North Bay Med Academy. He is a 504. He is an interdistrict transfer. He struggles with school. And as a sophomore on the varsity swim team, he was MVP for the team, for the boys varsity team. And this is not because he's in any particular way a talented athlete or swimmer. It's about practice and time. We've been sending him to Neptunes for many, many years. And when I hear that Trustee Kogorno volunteers in classrooms to tutor students, or maybe outside of classrooms to tutor students, what that gives the students is just more time on the material. Just like my son swims probably 100 times as many hours as the rest of the swim team swims because of Neptunes. The amount of time that is spent on math or anything is what helps students achieve and learn, make progress. The repetition, the focus. A lot of times I get phone calls from parents saying, well, I'm just going to get my child a tutor. And I said, that's an excellent idea. And not because I can't do the job, but that one-on-one time with someone is focused time where that student and an expert are working with the same goal in mind, and that's mastery of the material. So the more time that we can spend with our students one-on-one or in very small groups, above and beyond what the teacher can do in a classroom of 30, is what's going to really make the difference. It's that repetition, it's that practice. As far as what's going on curriculum-wise in the elementary grades, I'm not there. I don't see it. I just know what I see in my classroom, and I know what I see with anything I've tried to learn how to do. It's just repetition. I sat at board meetings for years teaching myself how to knit. And when I got good at that, I said, I can spend my time doing something better. And you know what I did? I went to law school. And I had to start all over again and learn how to do something new. I remember those first semester finals, I'm sure you do, or those midterms, and you do. We were out in the woods. And then by the time we finished our last year, we knew how to take those finals. The bar exam was almost a breeze. No, it wasn't. But the point is that it's the time. It's the repetition. It's the practice. And that's what I wanted to say about it. is like, you're in the same place, you're all in the same place, and the only other missing piece is having those children in classrooms when they're supposed to be there and not somewhere else. That's it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? And as you know, we, as the board, can't address the comments. So we will move on to the next item. Superintendent's report 3.3.
None this time.
Okay. Staff Association reports 3.4. Wanna come on back?
This is my first report as the WDEA president. I'm Susanna Pfeffer, also a teacher at Windsor High School. You may have noticed in the board packet some stuff coming through about a CTA release time for 20% of my job, and you might be curious about what that's going to look like. CTA is investing in teachers and trying to provide teacher support through CTA via the president, since it's something that they can afford to do for a little bit of time. And their focus and my focus is to reach out to the membership, the teachers, and have real conversations with them, make sure that they're feeling included, not just in the union, but in the district. So I imagine I'm going to be probably working with Pete Sullivan as well in trying to have these conversations. And that's what the release time is for, is to really get the pulse on our staff, our teachers, because we're losing way too many, as you can see in the personnel assignment orders, that they just, they might be moving on to, as Trustee Adams likes to say, better, bigger things. Yeah, they're moving on to better, bigger things. What are we missing out on here? So we're going to be taking a look at that. I wanted to let you know that.
Susanna, wait. Congratulations on that. I saw that item and was impressed that there was that internal investment from labor. I'd ask perhaps you and Director Pete could reach out also to your companion union, CSEA, who I'd like to figure out if there's a way that we could invigorate and help them. I don't know if CSEA statewide has a similar program, but I certainly would really like to see, as I looked through the materials and what you just had explained, to have the other half of our employees are in a CSEA and figure out if there's a way that we might be able to couple that, or maybe just do it locally as an initiative that we start with the district. And I don't know what that would look like. But.
Yeah, it's certainly something that when we can start to see it in action, my personal interest, Superintendent Decker can verify this, is investment in our newer teachers and our hires, and making sure that there's a way that that the school district can support them in maintaining a career in education in this part of the state, in this part of the country, because it's just so expensive. And that has been a focus on mine. So my big push is going to start with our new hires and making sure that they really feel like they are in the district, and part of the family that Windsor Unified School District can be for employees. And by modeling that, the CSEA association can also see, this is a way to reach out to employees. I think it's a little bit more challenging because they do not have a release time grant for this. This is something that CTA has been looking into for probably about 5 or 6 years, how to be able to pull this off so that basically we don't lose the teaching profession to employment agencies and charter schools and that type of organization.
Thank you.
Thank you. 3.5, Board of Trustees report. Anyone have anything?
I have one. I just wanted to say we're fortunate to be reminded, I'm fortunate to be reminded, on the back of all of our name tags, it says USD school board norms, and the first bullet is above all focus on the best interests of the students. And I wanted to say, while sometimes we may view that through a different lens, I am certainly committed and am proud to serve on a board where I believe everyone is in the best interest of the students. And then at a bit of levity, I have brought a nationwide school commentator video to briefly show. It's a gentleman who's a elementary school principal in Kentucky named Jerry Brooks, and with a G, and I would urge you to find his YouTube videos because they are a hoot. So here we go.
Happy summer. How are you? Oh, hey, Percival. Everybody said Percival. Everybody said, hey. Hey, they said, hey. What are you doing? You're at school. Am I coming up there? We got a PD. No, I'm not coming up there. I'm at Barbara's house. Yeah, Barbara's got this big waterfall. Yeah, she married real bougie. Like, she got a big pool party. We're all at a pool party. Did we know there was a PD day today? Yes, we did. Did you know it's the first week of summer? Yeah, and nobody's coming to a PD the first week of summer. No, do you remember what our growth plan was this year? Don't do dumb. And you planned a PD the first week of summer, and that's pretty dumb. You had all year round to get this math PD in. You met with us 3 times a week. We could have gotten that math PD during the school year, but you planned it for the first week of summer. Yeah, hold on a minute. Go, Margie. Go, Margie. Margie's getting ready to do a belly flop. Yeah, so we're not coming. Yeah, who's here? Guys, who's here? Yeah, pretty much the whole school. Yeah, anybody that's not there is probably here at this party. Yeah, we're not coming in. You should have done a better job planning PD during the school year. Yeah, you have fun with the math PD, and we'll see you next school year. All right, talk to you later. Go, Margie. Go, Margie. Go, Margie.
This is
The
the
best
quick,
I could do. So happy summer, everybody.
All right. Happy summer. That's all
quickest
I
way
have.
to clear out.
Oh, nice. More humor. More humor.
That's the elder.
The algorithm. Okay. Move on to 3.6, approval of the minutes from June 13th, 2024. Do I have any discussion, first off, on this one? And I don't think we have, do we ask for public comment on minutes? I don't think so. Okay. Any motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 13th. Motion?
Do we have a second? Anyone?
I'll second. I was being silly. When you said, is there a motion? I said a motion or a movement because
Oh, you had to go back there.
It's a small crowd.
I know.
It's a small crowd.
All the millions watching on YouTube, though. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to consent now. So Rich, normally I would do consent, but since I'm running the meeting, would you like to today? Or would you like me to do it?
Sure, no, I can do that for
And then
you.
I'll just say that we're going to pull 4.4 and consider it separately so that we can have a discussion about it. So Rich, if you could take everything else.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we approve all the consent items 4.1 through 4.3, 4.5 through 4.12 with 4.4. Is it coming off just for discussion?
We do a
Yes.
second. Oh, is it just for discussion? But
Yeah, I mean, so we can have the presentation.
we'll approve it separately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so just, 4.1 through 4.3, 4.5 through 4.12. We'll take 4.4 separately.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
It was
Aye.
Bill.
Bill.
I made a motion, it was Bill seconded.
All in favor, I think.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now we're going to we're going to go to 4.4. Bill, you wanted to add comments or?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it in closed session only under the superintendents to perhaps have a little bit more discussion and presentation on some of the demographic analysis and enrollment projections, because I understand this report came in shortly before we were putting the agenda together, and would welcome any commentary and clarification from the superintendent.
Sure. So about 3 years ago, we had our demographic analysis report done. And it's just kind of good practice to update these every 2 to 3 years. And so this time we decided to reach out to King Consulting to update our building, the amount of developments that are happening, as well as the number of students that were generated. And so the majority of this document is pretty similar to what you saw 3 years ago. But what's updated is the table 6, which is on page 26, Windsor USD residential projects. And then the accompanying pages, basically page 40 on, are updated. And what's interesting is development back in 19 was projected at creating 832 students, I believe. It was 800, a small amount, 832, I believe. Now the projections are looking like 1,117 students. And when I say this, this is based on moderate enrollment. So within this document, there are three different ways to look at enrollment. There's low projected, moderate projected, and then high. So mostly the focus has been on moderate by me. And if you look at well, it's in the packet, right? If the moderate enrollment projection essentially has us at 4,555 this year, and then bumping up to a high point of 4,757. Sir?
Is it possible to pull up that chart that's on page 5, the one that has I think rather than all the sum totals, you can talk to that if you.
Do you have your laptop? I can send it to you if you have it. I'm sorry.
Can we just get it off the agenda materials?
We can get it up if it takes just a second.
Okay.
And I can speak to it up there.
Yeah.
It doesn't need sound, so it should just be.
You're the sound.
I can be the sound.
He's doing the sound.
I'll come up to that.
Okay. So we're just pulling the PDF up onto the screen. Okay, great. And then you wanted to see the chart on page 5?
Yeah, I think that as he was talking about numbers, it gets
wonky.
that's the sort of the clearest representation for.
Got it. Oh, I see.
And you wanted page 5, Bill, or did you
think
want
so.
page 26? 26 shows all the development.
Well, he wants to see
Well,
that
5
one
has the
graph
chart,
first.
and then
Yeah.
26 has the details.
Oh, I see the chart, that chart.
Maybe
Yeah.
just
Go down one more.
that one.
That one there.
There you go. So
Make
the
it-
way this is developed is the low enrollment projections are showing we would get 0 students from any development that happened in Windsor. Okay, so it would just be status quo, no houses built, nothing gets done, we get no students. That would be the projection based on historical trends. The moderate enrollment shows that we would still be losing students at that rate, but then it would be balanced by development within the town, but we wouldn't be capturing all of the students. And then the high enrollment projection actually mirrors what we're seeing the past 2 years, which is larger than expected growth in our district, and then also factors in the Airport Village project, which is 1,440 units. That is not in the Windsor Unified School District. However, more than likely, we are going to get those students, and so those were built in. And I have to say, it was also even built in at a fairly conservative mark, because the only dwellings that were considered were ones that were 2 bedrooms or more. But we know many families will have a 1-bedroom and students will still be generated from those 1 bedrooms. So of those 1,440 units, I think it's only 445 were considered in this analysis. So this is not an aggressive high enrollment projection, I guess is the point I would make. And if it comes to fruition, meaning these projects get built, we get students based on, it's 0.45 roughly for single family, 0.97 for low income. If we get those students, plus we continue to attract from Santa Rosa City School District, is where we're getting a lot of students, but inter-district transfers, then that's when the high enrollment projection will come true.
Maybe, I was going to say, you wanted to talk also, I think, about the list that was on 26. I just wanted to show the context and the dramatic, at the higher enrollment, we're seeing a 22% jump in enrollment, 1,000 students, and those 1,000 students are shown here on page 26.
Correct.
That's it.
So this, is there any way to zoom down just so we can see the whole thing at once, Brian? I don't know if you can or not, but you can. So this shows all the different projects, and some of them are really close to completion. Some haven't started. Some still have to be approved. But this is everything that's in the pipeline with the town. And you can see, of the 2,497 units, it generates over 1,000 students, 1,117. And a lot of those timelines are pretty quick. We're talking 25, 26 for a large number of those students. And then some larger projects that are going all the way out, to 2031. But This is significant. So I think you wanted to bring it up, Bill, because we have a duty to make sure we're planning for all of these students potentially. And we're considering a bond on the, the agenda, and we have a lot of other things that we've been discussing.
And Jeremy, so, and even on this list with what it is, this doesn't even show the 40 acres right next door to Maddie,
No, it does not.
which is a builder's remedy project. So there's a few that aren't included in this that are builder's remedy projects. And the builder's remedy projects by nature get built way faster than everything else. That's, they I don't want to say circumvent, that's not the right word, but they have a lot of considerations. But to take advantage of those considerations, they have to go right away. So I believe on that one project that we saw just the other day, that was another 350 homes.
Which we did about 150 students roughly. But I think,
Or maybe more.
Maybe more, but I think that looking at Airport Village affordable housing, if we're really thinking this through, guys, there's no way we only get 43 students from that project of 1,440 units. Mark West is the home district for that project. Mark West is at capacity roughly. They're close. And I know,
No, I'm just kidding.
and I know about a quarter of their students are interdistrict transfers in Mark West. So just, they would have to accommodate these students. If you got 1,440 units, low income usually, creates one student per. And let's say we don't get that because some are one room versus two. I mean, you're probably still going to generate at least 500 students from that project, I would think. For us to only get 43 of those students is probably unlikely. I would imagine that the number is much higher. This was a discussion that I did have with our demographer, and he's never going to put something out there that is overly aggressive that he can't stand by. So he said, I'm going to go conservative here and really focus. That's why there's 4 stars, because he wants to call out that he only considered 2 bedrooms or more. I think in Sonoma County, though, as Susanna kind of referenced, it's tough to live, and I think people are doing what they can, and sometimes 1 bedrooms have more than, just the parents.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, sir. I should also say there is one other part in here that was updated. When we looked at our facilities, there are different ratings. There's permanent facilities, and then there's permanent capacity and total capacity. Permanent capacity is when you look at your buildings that are non-portables and they're within a certain time frame. Portables only have a 20-year shelf life. So in the original document, we focused on just total capacity. And in this document, he updated it to reflect our permanent capacity as well. And that's significant because if you look at Brooks Elementary, our permanent capacity is only 300 students currently. Our total capacity is higher. It's around 500 and something. But the majority of that campus is portables. And those portables are all over 20 years old. So those are not considered permanent capacity. And then if you look at Maddie Washburn, our permanent capacity is, our total capacity is over 800, but our permanent capacity is about 658, I believe, or 650 and change. So it's a large difference. And I say all of these things because we're considering a bond. And at some point we have to decide, do we want to educate our students in portables that are over 20 years old or do we not? So it's a consideration that I think you guys will probably discuss. But it was also updated in this demographic analysis.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions or discussion? Do we have a motion on this?
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve. Do we accept? I know we're not really approving it. We're receiving the upgraded demographic. Okay.
Updated.
Yeah, so I'd make a motion to receive the updated demographic analysis and enrollment projections.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving to item 5.1, this is consideration of approval of resolution 2024-30, Maddie Washburn pre-kindergarten leaseback contractor best value selection. This item will be presented by Brian Cameron and Aaron Brazier of Van Pelt Construction. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Aaron here to present, so I'll let him take over.
So yeah, on May 16th, we had board approved the Maddie Washburn pre-K project, the leaseback project resolution. So during that board meeting, we adopted the guidelines for the selection of the leaseback process. Of course, we did a mandatory sidewalk. We went ahead and advertised publicly as well for the project. We received a total of 4 proposals. One of those proposals was from a subcontractor, so that one was voided. And then the other proposal did not include a DSA pre-check building, and the price per square foot estimate was much too high for us to interview for the project based on the budget. We went ahead and interviewed as a team, Van Pelt Construction Service Team, Windsor Unified School District Team, and then also our design team, Costa Studios. Arns came in at 842 total points to JL Construction's 789. We did see some cost difference in total of insurance fees and construction fees, also in combining that with pre-construction of $277,000 in cost savings going with Arns as well for that. So overall, it was pretty close, but it came down to the contractor interviews and Arns out of jail. So we've submitted all that as attachments, so you'll see all the background documentation for their proposal, and likewise the best value scoring system as well to kind of back up that decision making. Okay.
Thanks for the overview. Any questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Any public comment? Seeing none, do we have a motion on accepting this award of the agreement?
I'll make the motion. We accept the, actually it's a resolution, right?
Oh,
Yeah. Yep. So we do or don't?
we have to make a
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the resolution to accept the lease back.
Yep. Well done, guys.
We need a second.
I will second.
Stephanie Amott.
Yes.
Paul Cagorno.
Yes.
Rich Carnation.
Yes.
Bill Adams.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
We have the next item as well.
Okay, great. So this is the consideration of approval of Resolution 2024-31, which is the Windsor Unified School District Standards. Take it away.
So yeah, over the last handful of years, probably 5 years, we've been working with ATI and now AC Martin. Through those projects, we kind of tried using similar products, being that like electrical items, low voltage, like similar toilet fixtures and so forth. So working with AC Martin, we developed the district standards. And after our last few projects, we also met with maintenance, the technology team, and went over this list and kind of fine-tuned it to all the newer items they've been using, which you'll see as an attachment as well. So based on these probably last 4 or 5 projects, we fine-tuned that list, met with the maintenance and operations team probably like 5 times, and develop this list to come up with like a guideline when we come up with new projects. That way architects can use these to develop the specifications and help with avoiding like having maintenance stock like 3 or 4 different products of the same type. And that way kind of helping maintenance and then streamlining our other design projects.
Great idea. I have a couple comments.
Yeah.
Now that you have this comprehensive list, the thought that was going through my mind was, one, I was kind of surprised that we didn't already have that. It's like one of those aha kind of things. Like, of course we have that, but we don't have it. But it makes sense that we do have it. So now that we have that, that's really good. The 2 comments are basically this. One, I want to make sure that we have the flexibility to pivot because technology changes,
Oh yeah.
products work out, certain things get better, or they may have a common problem with a unit. Something comes along and fixes it. So I don't want us to be locked in so hard that, nope, we can only put in this Moen fixture.
Yeah.
So that's that. And then also that we have some stock. Going to that, I don't know how we would do this, Austin, but when I looked at that list, it's big. I don't know that people realize how many parts there are in our district, right? So with that in mind, this was just my thought, and I don't know, I just want you guys to think about it, talk about it later, see if there's something that can fit in, and that is this. We should have I'm gonna call a purchaser that can take these things and get a hold of the manufacturers and, okay, maybe I'm getting out of line or something because you're smiling. But I mean, but I was just looking at it. I'm a general contractor, like, wow, here's all these things. I should have a guy like I do in my company, Ron, get a hold of Moen. We're going to go through 25 of these a year. I want a price based on these numbers, whatever, and start locking in pricing on these units as well. So that way, because when you call up and you want one, you get something. But when you start saying, hey, we're going to buy 25 of these, 36 of those, or you have a distributor that you're buying maybe 30 different parts from, all your plumbing parts. So, hey, Pace, when's the school district's going to be with you? We want this kind of preferential pricing, right? The fact that you now have done this work and it's detailed, you could almost take that list and put it out there and say, hey, folks, we want you guys to bid on what you're going to sell us these things for. The work that you guys have done is fantastic. You've done all the hard part. Now you get to let everybody go like, holy Toledo, look at this, how much stuff we got to do here. So I think that there's some incredible cost savings that we can get now that you guys have done this work. So I don't want an answer to it tonight. Don't want whatever. I just want you to think about it, about how you might be able to not organize it, but craft it in such a way that we can get some really, really good pricing where the companies, they'll take your list, they will put in, Windsor Unified School District, here's our SKUs, and they will put the pricing in there. So that way when any of our maintenance people go and they order it, they get it, the pricing's already in there for us. Save us a ton of money. So yeah, that was it. So thanks for doing the work. It's
Yeah, so I mean, if I can respond to a couple of those things. So the reason it took so long was things change so often. So we have one project and like one manufacturer would stop making that product and we have to switch to a different one. So that's why it took so long. But we're finally getting it here. And your second point, we're not stuck to any product. This is just our standard. So say, like we like using carrier units. So now when we do a new project to architect, we hand those the district standards over, and they know to spec carrier for that building. For if any reason we want to go like a different way with like Daikin or some other product, there's no issue like changing directions and going to a different product. But it does allow us to avoid like substitution requests. So if a contractor comes to us and be like, I have an equal product, but it might cost less and it's not our standard, we can tell them like, no, we're not going to go with that product.
so actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's part of my concern. So in my industry, there's a company called Lochinvar, great company. They have the nicest Ferraris out there that gets spec'd in all the time. And there's another company called Raypak, and they have, their heaters are just as good and they go just as fast. They don't look quite as pretty, but they will do all the work. The cost difference is sometimes half. So when you bid on a job, sometimes the Lochinvars are spec'd. It says or equivalent, right? So the Raypak goes in. So in our district, we want to be able to say, hey, Lochinvar, if you're going to be our guy, and that's our person, whatever you call it, our unit, then we want you to give these prices to all the contractors that are going to bid. This is the price. Tell us. So we as a district may negotiate the price of the product that goes to all the people, contractors bidding it, or then we equal them out. It will save us a lot of money. That's just one example, but it's a lot.
I have to jump in because I was laughing when you said the purchaser. Because actually, in one of the things about coming up north to school districts is in Southern California, they all have a purchasing department.
Right.
And even in my small little district, we had a purchase person. And there's so much that goes into it to where that position almost pays for itself because they're piggybacking off other purchase agreements. They're, doing mass orders. So I've had that in the back of my head. So when you started saying that, Rich, that's why I started laughing because I've had that in the back of my head for a while now, and I've tried to figure out how to incorporate it. And we've started to, but then I also started thinking about AI because I know Stephanie loves AI, and I could see this huge list eventually becoming a new little AI thing for the guys to use too. So just comments on what you were talking about.
But I didn't want to complicate it, but the idea of the purchaser, you may be able to work with Hillsburg and some other districts that are size a little bit bigger,
Yeah.
a little bit smaller. They may have this, they may not. In general, schools have a few architects that kind of concentrate on. So a lot of times the things may be pretty similar in the vein,
Yeah.
but we might be able to share a purchaser
Right.
that's putting the purchasing power of 3 districts or
Right.
4 districts together to drive those prices down better for all of us.
Yeah.
And we literally have one guy that works for me and he purchases, he more than pays for himself on the costs that he negotiates in advance for all the different things. So anyhow.
Yeah, kind of sounds like purchasing consolidation, which interesting. So I guess I'm the person who loves AI.
Sorry to throw that out there, but yeah, I know that.
I just wanted to say that great work on that, on the standards. Like, it's so detailed. People probably haven't really looked through it, like, in the public, but it's like very, very detailed and interesting to go through and like and see. So it's a great tool. Appreciate it. Do we have any more discussion from the board? Questions? Anything from the audience? Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second.
All in favor is a roll call.
Stephanie Amott.
Yes.
Paul Kagorno.
Yes.
Rich Carnation.
Yes.
Bill Adam.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Appreciate it. Okay, 5.3 is the consideration of approval of our 2024 to 2027 LCAP. We had the presentation last time, and I think the hearing technically, and now we are considering the approval.
Yes, and apologize for not being here last board meeting. I was in Washington, D.C. and New York for my daughter's 8th grade trip. So the superintendent did let me know that there was some additional feedback that the board wanted to provide, and I prepared some data. We can go through the data, or I could just take questions. You don't have any copy of this.
Now, Brian, I was wondering if we could look at the actual LCAP. Well, you know exactly where I'm going. When I was looking at the goals, I thought, since these are goals for 2026 SBAC, and I thought, well, 47%, maybe we can do better. Maybe we should just stretch ourselves a little bit, because still, when you go back to that other page, you'll see where districts are now. Go back to it's still, pretty, we should be able to stretch ourselves a little bit, I think. When I looked at both that, I just saw that data earlier today, but when you compare that to the other data, I think we can safely say, when you go back to the ELA part, it was 47% was the goal on there. And I don't know, I was just throwing out a number, like, would 60%, where would that put us if we stretch to 60%?
So if you look at Petaluma, and when you look at Petaluma, you have to consider it's both Petaluma Joint Union High School and Petaluma City Elementary, and kind of average those scores together because their high school district is separate. Petaluma is very similar to us in terms we have a little more socioeconomically disadvantaged students, we have a little more English learners, but in terms of the community, the type of community, kind of a single district town, we always looked at Petaluma and kind of as comparisons. So if you're considering something like a 60% in English language arts and maybe a 50% in math, that's not out of the range of possibility if we were performing at the same level as Petaluma, and I don't see any reason why we couldn't get to that level.
Yeah, that was my only real comment. I would like us to try to let's put the goal out there. That's a stretch. I mean, the goals that were there are okay, probably very much reachable, but I think we could stretch a little bit. Let's go for it. Let's push ourselves.
So absolutely. So we can, how does this work?
We
if
just
wanna-
we just make the modification. You guys would approve the LCAP with that change. So I think what I heard was 60% for ELA district-wide.
Yes, district-wide.
And then 50% for math district-wide. That's our stretch goal. And I think it's reasonable. And there's a stretch goal.
Yeah.
It's 3 years. And
3 years.
I'll say, looking at that, I think ideally I'd like to be making 5% growth every year if we're really, kind of kicking butt. And that doesn't get us all the way to 60%, but I don't know why we wouldn't do a stretch goal. We do those for students. We do those for a lot of different reasons. And I think that's a reasonable thing for us to try to attain.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So this, after the approval tonight, this will go to the county office on Monday. They will review it, and sometime in September, October, they'll give their final approval and our money for next year. And then that will be kind of our working document for the next 3 years. But I think the emphasis on the word working document. So as things come up and things change, we can add new strategies, we can change strategies, as well as develop whatever metrics make sense for us.
Okay.
So with the new document you're sending, we'll have the new amount,
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any other questions?
I really like the aspirational goal piece. I think it's good to stretch. And and thank you, Brian. Welcome back.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed. Okay. I think that wraps up comments from the board. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the LCAP.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item 5.4. This is the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant. Austin will be presenting this item. Take it away, Austin.
Alrighty. So this item is an interesting item. This item has been through the ringer historically. I have a full page here typed up of the history, and I'm not going to read any of it, but this item was originally proposed in 2022 in January, in the governor's proposal, and it was called the discretionary block grant. And he was going to give us this big chunk of money. It was going to be $8 billion statewide. And then in the May revision, this was during the big boom when California had the huge surplus. Then in May came around, the governor held steady on it, and he's basically like, you guys, it's going to be unrestricted. You guys could use it for whatever you guys need to use it for, which was all we were asking for as school districts at the time, especially during COVID when we had all these restrictions. Then July rolls around, and the legislature and the governor came to an agreement to divide this grant into two, and then also to increase the dollar amount. So they divided it into two. They created the Learning Recovery Block Grant that we have now, and then they have the Arts, Music, and Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant that they couldn't have condensed down into shorter words, but they have that as well. And so they ended up releasing $11 billion statewide. Long story short, when Prop 28 then passed that November, this was the grant that they had cut down. So they cut it down roughly in half. And it started out as a 30% cut in the 2023 proposal. And this is after the funds were already allocated to school districts. Then, and you guys, some of you remember all this. Then in May, they had cut it all the way down to 50%. And then in July, they restored what they had originally given to us. So now come full circle, of course, this year they make a requirement that we have to take the plan to board and approve it. They've added some language about what's allowed within this grant and what's not allowed. But as I reached out to CDE because some of it was vague, and they basically gave the board almost full authority over how they would like to use this money, which is awesome, that we don't get that opportunity a whole lot with grants. So one of the things in this plan that we had used the money for this year, because it's always tough to bring a plan to board after you've already been allocated it for 2 years and then approving an expenditure plan. But one of the things we used it for this year was to fund a TOSA. And then one of the things that we are looking to use the rest of this money for, it's roughly, the total grant is $2.7 million. And we've already used about $140,000. The rest of it we are looking to put into a private trust to hopefully help fund a liability, a long-term liability that we have called post-employment benefits. And so these benefits are, once you retire, we have to pay retiree benefits for their health and welfare. And that liability is stacked up in the amount of 11 million for the district. And so we are hoping to hopefully move that over and help get it to start growing and pay off that long-term liability.
And just to clarify, that is not everywhere. Not every district has that liability. That is language that was negotiated in the contract. And do you want to talk through the language, Austin, just kind of how
Yeah.
it works?
So the way that post-employment benefits work, and they're different district to district. Healdsburg has some crazy ones, and then we're more in line with what I've seen in other school districts. But typically there's a grandfathered agreement. So back in the day, health and welfare used to not be that expensive. And so you pay it, you'd even pay it all the way till the retiree retired, and then even further, all the way till possibly death. So then came a thing called GASB 84, which was a law that basically was, hey, we need to start watching this as health costs start rising. And we have since then started to see historical grandfathered agreements where, oh, well, now you have to work more than 5 years in the district to get a certain amount of time after retirement. Oh, you have to work 10, 20. So within our contract currently, it's you have to work 20 years within Windsor Unified, not just in education, in Windsor Unified. And then you qualify for 5 years after retirement or age 65, whichever is sooner. And so that's what's currently in the contract now. But as Jeremy said, all of that can be negotiated.
And it's currently a cost of somewhere between 600 and 800,000, depending on the year and what
And which
benefits people are
retirees,
taking.
correct. I looked back and from 21, 22, when I got here, to this current budget, we've been anywhere from 600,000 to up to 700,000. So yeah. And that comes out of the general fund every year. And so of course, this is a one-time grant that hopefully if we were able to set aside, and that's why we're kind of making the recommendation that we are, that if we could set that aside, hopefully we could help offset some of that ongoing cost within the general fund.
I was on a roller coaster high when I first went through my pack and I saw this go, oh my golly. I looked at number one and I said, couple $1,000,000. We got visual arts, we got language, mathematics, something. Oh, after our last meeting last week, I was going, last month or whatever. Well, this month I was going, we got a couple $1,000,000 we can put to all these cool things, A through J. And then I kept reading the thing, going through it, and I was going like, oh crap, this is not ongoing. This is one time. Well, how are we going to do that with one time? But then the real big surprise was this $11 million plus ongoing liability.
Yes, sir.
That at first my thought was, dude, did I know this and I forgot about it, or I didn't catch it or something? Because I usually catch budget stuff for money. And so I was a little bit, and then, so I was pretty high. I was like, man, because my brain was going crazy of all these A through J things that we could do with that money that's special. And now it turns out we not only probably don't have the money to do that, it's on a year after year basis, but we have an $11 million bill that we're only recognizing the current portion of that long-term debt in our budget. And so I know I didn't catch it, and I should or notice it, but I notice it now, or I see it now. And so, Austin, are we seeing it now because we had an audit done?
So, no.
Why are we more aware of it now?
We're not. So that would be a mistake on my part, that not making you guys aware. A couple of years ago, we opened up the Fund 71 because I was surprised the district didn't have it, if I'm being honest. Because, it's one of the first things you do. You come in and you look and go, oh, is there any, money growing in there to fund this liability that we have? And there wasn't even a fund set up. So then, and it's something I probably should have brought to the board earlier and said, hey, we have this ongoing long-term liability that at some point is going to need to get taken care of, or we're just going to fund it out of the general fund ongoing for forever. But no, every year there is a actuarial study that's required, and that's the GASB 84 stuff. There's an actuarial study that is required to be done every year, and it actually gets rolled into the audit. So when you guys are presented the audit report, it's a piece of that. But that actuarial study is done and they come up with that liability. So that net liability that you hear of 11 million, that's where we're getting it from, is from an actuarial firm.
Got it. Thanks. So my concern is, I'm sure you guys have kind of heard those advertisements on the radio sometimes about when people get timeshares and they get stuck in them. Yeah, they get 5 days a year someplace, but they get all these extra costs and this and that, the rest that they weren't counting on. This is kind of one of those things in my mind, because we don't have control over extinguishing that debt. It just hangs. And the problem with healthcare is that it's probably going to continue to grow at a faster, higher rate than our rate that we can pay it down. So what I would like to do, now that I see this here, is I'd like, Jeremy, I mean, I'm not even sure how to, one, I don't want to negotiate from up here. That's not my job. But I'd like to have you talk to our negotiating partners and get ahead of this and start thinking outside of the box of how we can, I'm going to use the word curtail. I don't know if that's the right word, eliminate some sort of thing. We have to do a couple things in my mind. We have to honor the agreements that we've made with whoever we've made it with. But like all negotiations, all things, we can't continue, in my mind, can't continue to have that feature in our business, because we don't have any control over it. It can change out of our control. So, and again, like right now, I remember my family plan for our health insurance was like $380 a month. It was about 15 years ago. Now, granted, I mean, things have gone up in 15 years, but still, that same policy now is $2,600 a month. It's gone way up faster than inflation and CPI and any of these other things. So now that we know it's here, we got to deal with it. I have some ideas, but those are just my ideas. I'd like to have you guys get with our partners and start. I know that you guys negotiate during certain times, but if you guys could talk and start talking now about this issue and however that process works.
And we have talked about this issue with our partners, and I think that we can revisit this. It's part of contract language, and so it's definitely a negotiated item, as you've alluded to, or actually as you've stated. So I think that I can make sure that this is one of the things that we discuss at our next session, or at least our next couple of sessions. And I hear the urgency in you.
Yeah, I mean, a wise old guy one time said, he goes, interest, thems that understand it make it, and thems that don't pay it. And this, of all the things I've seen in our district since I've been on the board, this scares me probably as much as anything.
Understood.
Because it could really wipe out our ability to have not only flexibility that sometimes we have, but it could cause some severe, deep cuts in things that if we don't deal with it, will lead us that way, out of our hands. I hope that we're in a position now where we can make whatever modifications, and there's a variety of different things that I can think of right now that we could do, that I'm sure a lot of other people can do, and other districts have probably come across this too, that we could research out and find out what other people have done.
See what other districts are doing.
What's that?
See what other
Yeah, see what other people are doing with the same kind of thing. So anyhow, I don't want to go on this any more than this, but the last thing is, I like the idea of right now taking that money, getting the interest off of it to help offset. I'm just going to use round numbers, a couple $1 million. We could maybe get a couple $100,000 a year in interest that will help buy down temporarily while you guys figure out how we take care of this. This may be a 10, 15 or longer year fix.
It would have to be, obviously,
You know what
because
I
you
mean?
can't take away a benefit that's already in the contract. So it would only be anybody, if we were to enter into negotiations, we would have to talk about people who aren't working here yet would
Right.
be affected by this.
Yeah, I mean, and then based on the 20 years, the 5 years, how old people are when they're, I mean, there's a lot of variables in it too. That's why you hired actuarials, because they got to get into those little number things. And so anyhow, I'm glad, thank you for bringing this forward. Sorry, I didn't catch it earlier if there was an opportunity to, but we got it now. And so if we can get ahead of it, I don't know when we negotiate next, if it's another year, 2 years.
I don't think we've set a date yet. Have we set a date? I don't think we have.
Anyhow, but if you guys can all start talking about this particular issue now and start doing the research of what all the different options are of fixing this thing, that would be, and it's the sooner the better. It just, every day that the interest keeps cruising on it, it just hurts us long term. So.
Thanks, Rich. Bill, I see you have your mic on. Go ahead.
Yeah, I concur with Rich. Thank you for those comments. I like that we have 143,000 that is going towards current staff and programs and students now under Prop 28. I look at a number, and when I hear a number like $600,000 or $700,000, I think in terms of, oh, that's 2% of salary scale. So from the standpoint of where that applies, $11 million is too big of a number for me to wrap my head around. But yeah, I think some creative solutions to put the cards on the table. And I like the notion of let's talk to some people who maybe have addressed how to deal with their post-employment benefit situations. So yeah, I would support this measure as proposed.
Okay. Any more comments from the board? Comments from the public?
So is that a motion? No. Oh.
Seeing none. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve this as it is.
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Bill. All in favor of approving the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, next item is 5.5, which we added during our adjustments to the agenda section. So we'll be replacing the current item 5.5. And Jen, I'm wondering if you can go in and actually make the update to the agenda, like when you have time, and just put in that item as 5.5. It'll be timestamped, so it'll show that we did it later, but I think it would just be helpful. Perfect. So then we can go back and people can see it and the public can see it. So item 5.5 is resolution 2024-28, ordering an election to authorize the issuance of general obligation bonds, and establishing specifications of the election order and requesting consolidation with other elections occurring on November 5th, 2024. What was the specific amount, just so we can be totally clear and have that?
It was 122,500,000.
Okay. Any discussion from the board on this?
I appreciated we had the consultant come and talked about it before we did surveying and got the report on that. You know, we've talked, I noticed on Appendix A to the resolution, A3 has pretty comprehensive. I think it's flexible and it's general on the use of the proceeds, and I think that's good. Allows us some agility. I would only again make the comment that's been made when we've both talked about the survey consultant, and I believe at our last meeting, we historically, since 2016, have had 3 bond measures. The first one from 94 was paid off, which is a 30-year bond, as I recall. I think it was paid off earlier because we were able to work with Austin's predecessors and refinance it so that rather than carrying that debt for 30 years, our property owning taxpayers paid it off in 19 or whatever, but 4 or 5 years early. So this would keep a recurring cycle, I think, of 3 bonds on here for the continued facilities needs that we have for the district. So I certainly would support this.
I agree.
Great. Any comments from the public? Do I have a motion? Oh,
Just so everybody at home understands, we already went and discussed all this last meeting, so this is
yes.
just kind of the second time through. I'll make a motion that we approve this, not a resolution.
It is a resolution.
It is a resolution?
It is a resolution.
That we approve resolution
2024-28.
2024-28.
Do I have a second?
Well, second.
Okay.
Stephanie Ahmad.
Yes.
Paul Kagorno.
Yes.
Rich Carnation.
Yes.
Bill Adams.
Yes.
Okay. We have next item 5, the new item 5.6, which is consideration of approval of the Cali Comeka 2024-2027 LCAP.
Thank you. Because Cali is a charter, it does an LCAP instead of a school plan, but Lydia will be presenting all of her data findings, strategies, and activities with all of the other principals when they do their school plans in September.
So we'll just be accepting their report.
So it can be sent to SCO.
Okay. Any discussion on that? No comments from the public? Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the Cali LCAP.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is the new item 5.7. This is the conference with real property negotiators. I think there's an extra property in this heading, but it has to do with Windsor Creek and our ENA. We had amended this item in the adjustments to the agenda section to add that we are considering approval.
Yes, and again, we'll bring this back in August again, but this is to our benefit to make sure we start our, an ENA is it's a time framed thing, right? So we want to start this as soon as possible so we can get moving and hopefully get this agreement done. And this is, we will post the actual exclusive negotiated agreement as soon as this board meeting is done. Jen can do that for the minutes. But this is with Gallagher Community Homes. So we're entering into negotiations for housing on Windsor Creek's property with Gallagher Community Homes.
And I'm recusing myself from voting discussion or whatever on this part.
Yeah, I think in response to something the Susanna as WDEA president said, a focus of this in high density income supported project is for workforce housing. And so there will be that ability unique, I think, in Sonoma County at this point, that we would be on the front end as a school district of saying, and I don't think we haven't really worked out exactly, but I think it would be focused on our school staff, but maybe some other public sector community workers here in town. And so very, very pleased and excited about this.
And as Bill just said, that's the next phase, right? So now we are only going to negotiate with Gallagher Community Homes, which is what you're approving. We're not really taking any other offers here. And we have a certain time frame to come to an agreement. And there have been a number of different models proposed and discussed. And, the core that we're talking about is our housing for our staff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm very excited about this project and can't wait to tell everyone more about it. And can't wait to work on it.
And I'll just acknowledge, I'm trying to remember how long ago it was now. Was that
Like
4 years, 6 years ago?
5.5 years.
Yeah, Stephanie came out of one of the seminars at the California School Board Association project and said, wow, we can use surplus land to build housing for our staff. And we all went, how would we ever do that? And here we are.
And Rich was there too.
Yeah.
And that's when Rich and I became friends.
Okay.
We found each other in that session. Actually, we already were friends, but we became even better friends. So it's, been exciting to work on this up till this point, and I can't wait to do more on it and involve the public. Any other discussion from the board, from the public, comments? Okay, motions?
I'll move to approve the exclusive negotiating agreement as outlined in 5.7.
I'll second.
Great. And all in favor of approving and accepting the ENA and right of entry agreement as signed by our superintendent.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Sorry.
So 3011, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, new 5.8, consideration of approval of education protection account report for 2023 to 2024. Austin, tell us about this exciting item.
So EPA, let's keep this short. So the EPA is part of LCFF funds that we get. It is a subcomponent of it. When EPA was rolled into LCFF in 2012, Governor Brown at the time said that all of these funds must be used for teacher salaries, and you have to submit a resolution yearly to show that these funds were used. And so, of course, all of our funds were used for teacher salaries, and that is on the agenda. So,
Okay, pretty straightforward. Any discussion or comments from the public? Okay, I will make a motion to approve this item. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Last item of the night, 5.9, consideration of approval of the 2024-2025 adopted budget. Austin, take it away.
since the public hearing, there was no changes to the adopted budget. So it's the same budget that, at the hearing. So.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the budget for the 2024-25 budget year.
Second.
Okay, before we take a vote, I'll just see if there are any public comments on this item. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 6.1, future board meeting items. We can go to 7.1, meeting adjournment. Not like we're trying to break any records tonight, but we might just
We can
do
make
it.
the second set at the show on the town green if we move quickly.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion that we adjourn at 7:12
12?
and 50 seconds.
Happy summer, everybody.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for coming. Have a great summer.
New record.